Should I introduce myself, or everybody knows? My name is Muschietti. I'm director of The Flash. Do you want me to do that? That was terrible. I'm gonna say that again. I suck at this. Wait, hold on. I hope you guys can edit this. Okay. Hello, my name is Muschietti. I'm the director of The Flash. And I'm gonna take you through the story, the movie, and some of my ideas of this incredible cinematic adventure. I mean, making a movie is such a big process. As a filmmaker, you're constantly finding things in a script or in a story, not only to make a great film experience for the audience, but to keep yourself excited about it, which is an essential part of the creative process.
Miraculously, we've managed to pre-produce this film through a full year of pandemic. There is no compromise, it's the opposite. You want things like you've never wanted them before, and you fight for them. And I've exhausted a lot of people, let me tell you, in this process.
Pre-production is hard because you have to cope with a lot of technical stuff that is necessary because you're working with a crew, you need to communicate with the crew, so you need to express a lot of ideas that are not fully cooked sometimes. But the crew knows this, they just want you to at least show them a blueprint of what you're thinking to start working on it. Then later, all that work will converge, and some things will fall apart, some things will stick. So at the beginning, you're starting with a lot of ideas in the air, and as you get closer to the shoot, everything crystallizes one way or the other.
We are seeing the light. We start shooting in 5 weeks. We're gonna do this.
It was very exciting because it was day one. Of course, you had to climb the Everest. It's the first day is like, you can't even like start to imagine what that will be.
The first day on set was electric. After having prepped for a year and 2 months because of the pandemic slowing everything down, we were so ready. So our first pre-shoot day. Pre-shoot is testing the camera and the lights, but we generally use it to shoot something real. And we shot with Jeremy Irons as Alfred on a green screen that is supposed to be the Batcave.
When you're shooting, it's very good to have people who amuse you, who interest you. I have high hopes for Andy. I liked him a lot, and I think if you like your director, that's a huge help. He's a consummate professional and great company.
Brilliant. Cut.
Cut there.
It doesn't feel like day one, but it is day one.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's day one.
You really can't wrap your head around a project this big. I think one of our biggest achievements was being able to keep our key figures, like the amazing Paul Osterberry, who's our production designer, Henry Bram, our DP, and Alex Byrne, costume designer. You know, all these people that are really key to having the movie we have now and that we wouldn't have had we lost them during a global pandemic. That was the trickiest part, I think, to be able to keep everybody together.
Hello, and welcome to Flash Stunt Training.
Lucky for me on this one, because I knew Ezra and I had a relationship with him, it was really easy with Ezra. He knows that we do a lot of treadmill running for the character, so he knew that he had to keep his cardio fitness up. There's a certain symmetry that we wanted to keep with him. We didn't want him to be too broad in the shoulders. We didn't want him to have too thick a waist. He had to look lean.
Let's do it by stage, and then Pete will give you a nod to take it up. Cue it, so just look at Ezra, see that he's in the zone before you cue it to go up.
Okay, cool.
Are you videoing this, Andy? Because I was going to say, video how quick his legs go in this.
Check, go, big movie. Ready, and now. We're currently driving through the back lanes of sunny Hertfordshire on our way to a top secret location. We are going to pick up the 1989 Batmobile. Now, I've seen it a couple of times, but every time you see it, you can't help but stand back and just be like, wow, it's just such an impressive bit of kit. Started on the button first time. A little bit smoky, but it was all right. Now we head back to the studios.
But yeah, I get hit by lightning.
No, relax. You don't get hit.
I signed up for this job to be Ezra Miller's acting double. Like, that was quite fulfilling for me as an actor as well, because I was handed an entirely new task. Like, this job has not been done before by another actor. This new volume capture technology is completely new. It was crazy sort of seeing how this whole thing fitted together with this movie.
I am not getting hit by lightning!
I'm in like 75% of this film. It's unreal, like, it's crazy.
Poncho section.
We did a scene in the crime lab where we were soaking wet and doing all these crazy stunts, and in a witness harness, this incredibly designed piece of kit that is really rigid to act with and very restrictive as an actor, as my job has to be so physical. But I didn't think for 1 second that this was an impossible task. For the overall experience, totally worth it.
Yo voy a mirar abajo porque estoy pensando, y después él menciona a Zor, so yo voy a pensar que Zor está acá, y después miro arriba. You must have tracked my blood signal.
When I wake up, when I'm at the table and I get up, that was my first day on the job, officially. It was my emaciated look, which was so much fun. And it's also the day that, for me, felt like was the most raw and honest for her.
Okay, give me a more aggressive who are you? You can't remember these are the guys that saved you. They could be the Russians. And action.
Who are you?
It was all very new to me, right? It's my first time being in a movie. It was my first time seeing how everybody functioned and the whole crew. And I'm always gonna remember that day. I remember Andy being like, beautiful work, Sashingi. Love it, love it. Andy's accent is iconic.
Welcome to the Batcave. Finally, semi-done. Or in the words of Ridley Scott, it's a good start.
We had about 15 weeks of build, 2 weeks of dressing, and actually, this is the last day of that 2 weeks of dressing and pre-lighting. The inspirations for me are the two most iconic bat caves, which are the Tim Burton one, which is Michael Keaton, and also blended certain things from the Christopher Nolan bat cave. For me, the design of this cave has to kind of straddle the two.
The Batcave was incredible. It was the largest Batcave ever built. When you walked in, it was so immersive.
It's based on the Tim Burton movie original designs, but with a different scale, probably what the Batcave should be, which is a huge cave with bats.
You want it bigger? Yeah.
I think this is one of the few times, maybe the only time, that a complete cave has been built, which is quite an honor in itself.
Is this the biggest Batcave constructed?
I would say, yeah.
For sure.
Has to be, right?
100%.
Has to be, yeah.
100%. It's a little bit bigger than the Nolan one.
Construction built this amazing Batcave with a rostrum that the Batmobile had to sit on. And one of the problems with that was it was built without thinking about how the Batmobile could probably be put on it.
You might recognise this as being the sort of truck that they use at airports. That can go about 20 foot in the air. Plan is the Batmobile goes in there on a big ramp, strap it down, get it all secure. We raise it up with the crew in there, get it into the stage, and then slowly, very slowly, we'll drive the Batmobile out of here whilst being about 20 foot in the air, onto the stage, onto the rostrum, into position. She's on. She's on, she's up. We can just leave her here for a few weeks and then we can worry about getting it back down again. But for now, this is where she lives.
At the beginning of our day, we're back up on the computer platform doing dialogue. We'll still have our crane down here below to do any wine shots. But then eventually, the Batwing descends. We have a couple shots that we'll be shooting that day. Our two berries actually come down from the computer platform and end up over a little bit behind where Andy is right now, I think, and watch that Batwing come down.
When I first saw the Batcave, I knew immediately that no one had ever seen anything like that before, and that Paul Austerberry had built the best Batcave in history, bar none. I mean, I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but it's true.
Next best thing.
You write a script that is based on a legend like Michael Keaton's Batman, and you're gambling a lot because he may say no. but he loved it, and he said yes, and he's been an amazing partner, and we can't wait to shoot with him.
Being able to bring him back into a story as Batman is thrilling.
The first time Michael Keaton came to see the Batcave, he was so shocked that he actually filmed it to send to Tim Burton.
Keaton asked me to take pictures because he really wanted to preserve that moment for his grandchildren. Of course, I took my own phone and started taking selfies with him, which he was totally okay with. That was very special.
It's the power of an actor. He's got the black makeup under the mask. He's suited up. The first time I saw him on set as Batman, my jaw dropped. And I'm like, holy it's Batman.
One of my favourite moments was the big Michael Keaton moment, and it was the moment he said, "I'm Batman." It was amazing.
It was out of this world. Oh my God, I mean, just to be there for that was iconic.
We had a very small window in which that thing had to work, and a lot of factors that could have screwed up the scene. But when the time came and he showed up in his suit, I was very focused on making the scene work. So I'm sorry if I wasn't that excited about it. I was excited, by the way.
I would wear it every single day if it were.
Hello, Captain.
Hello, Doctor.
The exciting things about this project is designing a new Flash suit. Don't get me wrong, I love the Justice League suit. I just thought that we needed a change, given that 5 years have gone by and he's befriended Bruce Wayne. Bruce would provide him with a suit that has a better technology.
Oh, yeah. That feels better.
It was very challenging to execute because in my mind, this was made of different layers. This is a suit that is more organic, it's more flexible, and it incorporates also this electricity conductors that light up when he's running or when he's getting ready to run. So it's a suit made of lights, it's a suit made of circuits, but there's like a satin feel.
The Flash costume itself was our biggest challenge. The suit itself is supposed to harness the energy that's created when the Flash is running at the incredible speeds that he runs at. And it's supposed to be able to trap that energy in and recycle it and use it again. But also it has to have an exterior that is impervious to the frictions and the things that he encounters as he's running at these incredible speeds.
So this is the interior cowl. It'll be powdered red. This is the exterior cowl, which will be done in a clear urethane. This will go over the top of this to give it that cool translucent look.
It takes a team of 20 people in the schedule sense, at least 2 weeks to make each suit. With the general wear and tear and the usage of the suit, we've had to be constantly making them anyway, so we haven't stopped the process of making them. So we've been making Flash suits on and off for over 12 months, from the beginning of the process to the end.
I'm very happy with the result. All that sheen and satin and the lights and the layers. I'm super proud of it.
It's sad and it's happy and it's sad. But it's the last day in the Batcave.
Dude, that's such a depressing photo. How did I feel when they tore down the Batcave? Just as I couldn't believe that we had built that, I could not believe that we were actively destroying that gem, because I would have left it there living forever to be visited and appreciated.
No, it's great. It's monumental.
You want me to do something different?
Just one tiny thing, one tiny thing. Just to try. Give me the option so I can count things.
Andy Muschietti gives himself a role every single time. He plays a hot dog eater outside of the courthouse.
And cut! This was amazing. What the napkin did was monumental.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a picture wrap on Andy Muschietti.
Andy had said to me, dude, we need to get you in this movie. Because I've done almost as many days of filming as Ezra's been doing. And they found this role for me as the reporter.
Mr. Allen, can you tell us a bit more about what happened, please?
Everyone came up to me like, it was so great to finally see your face on camera. It just meant like the world to actually have, you know, a part in this movie.
I made it in the movie.
Okay, we're getting close. I'm gonna stay airborne and take out their sky power.
A lot of the way the Flash evolved was that it was shot in a very freestyle way. And it's about the relationship of the camera to the actors. We're interested in the intimacy of the relationship between these characters. So that means putting the camera very close and connected to the performances. And not just close and connected, but actually emotionally and intuitively connected. Insert the audience as almost as part of the performance. Everybody's work is woven together without discussing it because you're all tuned into each other. And therefore, that's where the intimacy comes from.
Hi, everybody.
Picture wrap by Michael Keaton.
I've seen a lot of crews. Might be the best.
Mike Disco, who's one of the producers, said we need to get a cake for Keaton's last day. When the cake arrived, Mike Disco came to me and said, we can't give him the cake. And I'm like, why? He's like, because it's a monstrosity. So I saw it and I laughed so hard. I said, we absolutely have to give him this cake.
Who made this cake?
Thanks, stand by, everyone.
I never met Superman, but there's no way he's this awesome.
Talk a lot. We were on top of the Batman house, and I remember Andy calling me over and being like, come look at this. And it was the first time that I saw myself, and I was like, oh my God, we've done it, right? We created the character, like we've gotten here. She's in midair, she's in the suit, she's got the hair. There was a big sense of ease, I think, for me. That was a moment that it kind of all came together for me, and I felt like I could breathe and just really trust in the work that we were doing.
I got to go to the set and really see it from the ground up how this thing was being put together. A great example is the Supergirl reveal, which is first wearing the costume, that amazing shot of her. And I think it's just one of those environments where you just feel inspired musically. I mean, that all comes from Andy and his choices.
Here we go, ready? 3, 2, 1, action!
We're in the suburbs of Central City. We're in day 64, and we should have done this in the US. That's what we thought we were going to do, but then COVID hit. So we had to do it in the UK, where basically there's no American-looking neighborhoods, and it's been very exciting, very expensive. But we wanted for it to have a real feeling.
In discussions with Andy, green was an important color for him. He wanted nature to be surrounding this house. I can't do that in the backlot because we can build all the houses you want, but we can't make those massive trees.
And so Paul said, I think we should build it. And I know exactly what I want. I want a line of trees, and I'm going to put the houses in between the trees. And we walked into this field, and there was this perfect line of oak trees.
With careful planning permissions, we got to put a whole road, driveways, sidewalks, and build 5 houses.
I'm still surprised every once in a while when I walk onto a set and they've built an entire suburban neighborhood in a field where there was nothing here but grass and trees, so that we can get these 6 or 7 shots in the front yard.
So the only real thing here is the trees. Everything else we created. God, we wish we could keep it, because every movie that comes into the UK is desperately trying to find a US neighborhood, and they don't exist. But in order to comply with the regulations in the area, we have to take it down as soon as we're done.
You went to the store this morning.
I forgot the tomatoes. Andy called me and said, I would like, Nora, have your eyes, your look. And I said, okay, I'm in. It's been such an incredible experience. It makes me so happy.
Yes, Maestro?
That was great. Say it again.
Eternal Goodbye, Hell, Supermarket, Living the Dream?
No, that's not what I said. You still have to explain that to me. The real climax of the movie happens in the supermarket. Challenges there were protecting the atmosphere to let the actors access those emotions.
Make sure all of our walkies are off, please. Yeah.
It was probably anticlimactic scenery because it was a supermarket, but with actors like Ezra and Maribel, we can really pull a highly emotional climax.
I remember shooting that scene, that moment, and Ezra was crying during a break, and Maribel was crying. They brought it, and we all cried like babies.
Your mom must be grateful you came to visit her. She's very lucky to have you.
What in the literal hell is this place? Why is it so foggy?
We started looking for Wayne Manor in the very early days, pre-COVID.
Andy really wanted to use elements from the first Michael Keaton film.
So the first place we took Andy to was Nebworth, which he loved. He loved the history of the house, but mainly because Keaton was there.
However, Andy felt the house was a bit too short, so we decided we'd use the gates, but we'd look for a different house for the main view on the rooftop of Wayne Manor.
We showed him some other places, and we ended up at a house called Burley House. When Andy saw this house, he was absolutely, this is going to be his Wayne Manor.
And at Burley House, we built a well on the hillside, which was the entrance to the back cave. We used many interiors, and we shot some of the exteriors there with Dominic Tui's incredible mist, the special effects world.
Once we got into that house, Andy wanted to recreate some of the scenes from the first Burton movie again, which were at another house called Hatfield House. Had a very specific look at black and white patterned floor, and this was the armory room. So we actually went back to the same location they shot that.
Barry, stop acting like a child, okay? Grow up.
But then you had a scene where they're actually thrown down a staircase. Sadly, Burley or Hatfield, the configuration of the staircase just didn't work. So we spent about 2 months looking for wooden staircases.
That took us to another stately home about 20 minutes from our studio, which is pretty good, called Tring School of Performing Arts.
And the configuration had to be a staircase coming down with a front door. And this is the joy of Andy again. He gives you a directive. He's like, I need the staircase, because he knows months before we shoot how he's going to shoot it. That patchwork of locations all work together, and that's how we sort of got to the 4 places.
Make sure that it's all the way down and give me a beat, a solid beat before he comes in. Yeah. There's one particular gag that we did that I'm really happy about the way we crafted it. At this point in the film, Barry is in his Flash costume, and he's standing in front of his old childhood home that he doesn't live in anymore at night. But the flashback takes place in the day. We had to shoot young Barry running out of the house past Ezra, and Andy really wanted it to go from day to night. And we thought about it, and we finally said, you know what? Why don't we shoot it like a play? Why don't we shoot it at night? And Henry thought about it and said, that sounds fun. I'll build a big softbox light source overhead to turn it to day for a moment, and then we'll switch it off as the kid runs out. And it'll go to night, and we'll be back to the way we've been shooting the rest of the scene all night long anyway. And that's what it is in the movie. Now, Brian and I did a few other visual effects tricks in the background, but other than that, it's just a big switch off the lights gag, and I think it's great.
3, 2, 1, action.
We are in George Square in the center of Glasgow. The buildings here are a lot lower than Gotham would be, but the architecture is really interesting. It's old, heavy stone, a lot of sculpture. But it's actually nice to have real textures in the background. You know, we can only build so much, and so it's nice to have the length and breadth of scope that we get from a proper practical location.
That's when my creative juices started flowing, and I really am in the location and I'm seeing what we can do or can't do. And one of the things that we did on this was also make the city very populated. That sense of reality and real sense of traffic There's people running out of the way. There's innocent bystanders who potentially could get hurt. I think that really gave it the realism that this world exists.
Background and action.
Go. Bruce, this is a huge mess. Why aren't you here?
So we're at Central City Hospital, the opening scene where Barry has to save all the people. Did I say Central City? That.
Let's get rehearsing with the COVID test.
This is Gotham, Central City.
COVID test after, everyone. How's it feel to be halfway? Or past halfway?
Oh, past halfway. It feels good. It's like a marathon. You know? We're past the wall, so now it's like just keep going, just keep going.
It's 4:05 and the sun is about to come out, and we're desperately trying to get this stunt in. It's basically Ezra cabled up, coming towards the camera at very high speed.
3, 2, 1, action!
Awesome. Perfect. Do you do alternating leg?
You gotta roll through it. You gotta go roll through it.
Dave disapproves of my running technique all the time. Exhausted me with his running training. Now I'm exhausted before running. Good job, Dave.
Ready! And 3, 2, 1, action! If we're gonna do another one, we've got to go right now, please.
Eunice, what do you think? Another 10 and then we'll see where we are?
Okay, guys, let's take it up another descent.
3, 2, 1, action!
You went to where no man's been before.
I love you. Thank you.
We're standing in front of Bocchini Pizzeria. Bocchini is my football hero. Bocchini played in Independiente, which is my football team in Argentina during the 70s and the 80s. So here's my homage to Ricardo Enrique Bocchini.
So it's our first day in the Chrono Ball sequence. There's a lot of work ahead. Ezra will be very tired because there's a lot of running.
Well, this is where we're shooting most of Barry's runs. It goes to the past and the present and the future, and back to the future and back to the past.
So should we do full speed from there? From city to I think so.
Ready, and Ezra, and action. Tunnel 1. And ultraviolet.
Cut.
Cut that.
We're on a bridge. We built this tarmac, as you guys can see, and Wonder Woman comes and saves the day.
Sorry, I'm late.
Basically, that means that we have Ben Affleck coming back as Bruce Wayne and Batman. We have Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, and of course, our lovely Ezra. I think it's a bit of a reunion. They haven't seen each other for a while. And for us as a crew, it's great because we've been at this point shooting today for 94 days. So we're getting all like a lift and
Being Batman is sort of ridiculous and ultimately an exercise in ego because I
The lasso of truth.
give my money.
Never gets old.
There's something magic when these people put on their costumes. You believe it. They look like and they seem like superheroes.
Being the director of the movie, your head is very much focused on the scene, on how you're gonna make it work, on what you're gonna tell the actors.
Ben's camera operating now. He's been here for one day. He's already camera operating.
Ben blew my socks off. We met for 2 hours and discussed the scenes. 2 hours later, he had punched up his part.
My ego's too big to say thank you to anyone else.
It was such a privilege to see someone that cared so much about this iconic character. It was lovely.
Trying to align the schedules of Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller is no small feat, especially in a COVID world. It was very difficult, but we pulled it off.
Oh, yes. It's always wonderful to get into the suit and to see the guys. It's great.
Gal had a baby during our shooting period, so there was a lot to take into consideration, but she came for a day.
That joy that you see in the character is Gal, and it's real, and it was wonderful to have her around.
You know, of course, seen with some perspective, we had Batman and Wonder Woman and The Flash all together in the same shot. It's really fantastic.
Hey, nice suit. Looking good, Barry.
Ready, and 3, 2, 1, action!
Barry, stop!
We're about 6 weeks away from completion. We're now getting into the final battle and the last act, sort of bigger set pieces.
Paul and I very much co-editors on the film. Paul was on set in London with main unit to support Andy in the immediacy of cutting the video tap split. And then Paul's edits would come back to me in Los Angeles, and I'd further refine the assessment of all takes and best moments.
On set, I don't have necessarily the time to kind of go through everything as I would in a cutting room. It's almost to a degree like a proof of concept, like what we're doing now is going to work.
You should surrender this time.
Ezra did a tremendous job in really articulating the differences between 3 distinctly different characters that, to my eye, were performed by 3 different cast members, and staying true to what he and Andy had derived.
I am the Flash, and I can save everyone. Nobody dies!
This is the opening, part of the opening scene of the movie in which the hospital collapses, basically.
The first 20 minutes of any film is really important. And if you can, for me, make it a physical side, I think people tune in to it much more. The hospital, the room is real. It's quite a large room, and we made it tilt to 20 degrees in probably just over a second. That's been great to get physical with those elements. And I think it's going to be a fun sequence.
Ready, and action!
Both Zod and Faora had to look like they did exactly 10 years ago. You know, Michael has this giant scar, and he has a little glued-on goatee. So Michael came back, hadn't seen him in 10 years, walks into the marquee and goes, I know you.
Well, I was so excited when I walked in and saw Victoria. It just really put me at ease, you know, to see an old familiar face.
You are the one. Zor-El.
He was a great sport, and he morphed back into exactly Zod as he was before.
Terraforming has begun. This world must die so that ours may live again.
Andy's just wonderfully visual, such a wonderful artist, very easy to work for, but very precise, you know. We did a lot of takes, which I like. I like somebody who doesn't just settle for whatever comes out the first go around, who's really looking for something specific.
So, how are you feeling heading into last week?
I'm doing very good. I'm very tired, exhausted, but very happy with the movie so far, all the things that we as a group achieved. About the work itself, I'm probably not going to miss it because I had enough. 120 plus days is enough for production. This is the longest production I've ever been in. You know, a project like this that is so long. If you don't have a group that acts like a family, it's very hard to keep going. And I think I'm going to miss them very much.
You really make your family and the crew. You know, you're away from your real family. You're away from the place you live in. Although I work with my brother, which is great, there's a lot of people that become really close to you, and I'll miss them. And hopefully I'll see them in the next round, whenever that next round is. For now, it's a goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a picture wrap on Ezra Miller.
That's not true at all. I have so many more shots to do. But what it is it's a picture wrap on us. The greatest crew ever. I really think probably of all time.
Just a couple of words. I'm not very good at speeches, but thank you for getting this far. I know it was very difficult and very long, too. So I want to thank you for all the hard work and the effort. And I promise you I'll do my best to make all that work count. I think it's going to be a great movie if I don't up in the edit. I love you all and thank you so much. And I hope I'll see you guys again on the next movie.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was amazing. I couldn't possibly have a better crew and cast. I can't complain. I mean, I complain because it was so long and it took me 3 years to make this movie, but you know how it is. It's always better when there's good vibes and there's a real connection between every member of the crew and the cast. It wasn't artificial or unnatural, it just happened, and I couldn't be luckier.
You know what this is? A piece of a chair. Baby shower.
For me, it was very exciting. The idea of bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman. You know, obviously because I saw Batman in the movies when I was a teenager.
To be honest, the fact that we'd be able to bring Michael Keaton back as the Tim Burton Batman was one of the things that cemented our decision to make The Flash.
We get Michael Keaton Batman. You know, when I read that, I was just knocked out.
As soon as I read that Michael Keaton was in, you know, the whole idea of this multiverse, and wow, it was just shocking.
That was the clincher. When you turn the page and you realize who it is, you think, oh, that's great.
It's like bringing back a classic. It's like bringing back the Beatles. Many people probably think that they won't see that again in their lifetimes, and they have to content themselves with rewatching the old movies, you know, Batman and Batman Returns. That's why it's so exciting, I think, for people that were affected by the first Batman to see that Batman is coming back again. If Keaton's Batman, probably the one with the longest arc and a more complex arc.
Michael Keaton's Batman adds heart. He is a very human Batman, and he is reluctant to come back.
The thing with Batman in general is that this man that is immersed in this misery, in his childhood trauma, and he doesn't seem to be able to overcome it. It's the only Batman, apart from the Adam West version, that seems to have a sarcastic sense of humor about it. That I think is very tied to a coping mechanism. He has a very dark side to him, but there's a lightness to him, and that's what I found remarkable of his performance.
What was kind of fun was that Michael Keaton's Bruce / Batman had never been a mentor. He'd always been a lone wolf. We'd never got to see him with a Robin or with anyone younger like that. And so to have him suddenly thrust into that role of mentor was just kind of fun and funny and challenging for him. And I think it's great because Barry brings to that relationship so much love, so much trust from his own Bruce. Having that kid suddenly show up in his life, it changes Keaton's Bruce over the course of the movie, and it lets the two Batmen kind of share one arc.
I really wanted to defy people's expectations of where Bruce Wayne would be 30 years later. And I also wanted to deepen the backstory of Bruce Wayne. If Bruce Wayne, as the story tells, has been retired for 25 years, what happened to him? I always said something should have happened to Bruce Wayne to want to stop being Batman. And my idea was he did something that goes against his code. He killed a criminal in front of his child. Unknowingly, but he still did it, which is an exact mirroring situation of what happened to him when his parents were killed in front of the Monarch Theater, and that created that monster that Batman is. So he just couldn't cope with it, and that's why he decided to shut off his other side, Batman. And he hasn't been able to forgive himself. And now the way we find him is a bit of like the evolution of that journey. You know, he's a tragic figure. He's basically a character that is in search of redemption, but eventually finds a way to do it by helping Barry.
Want some help?
prepped a lot for when Michael would arrive because he's such a huge, iconic star, and his Batman is imprinted in every retina in the world.
One of the most exciting things to take on was Michael Keaton's new Batsuit. We all know very well, particularly in the costume world, the original Batsuits that he wore in the 1989 movie and in Batman Returns, I think, 92. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to be really true to the technology involved in those costumes, the look of those costumes, and what would have happened in 30 years to those costumes. What would they have become? How would they have developed? One of the folklores about Michael Keaton's original costumes were that they were really constrictive and hard to move in. And then he developed as part of his character what they called the Batman lean, where, you know, he was unable to look up or look down, look left, look right, so he used his entire body to make those moves, very famously kind of leaning back to look up and looking down to... And so we took it on ourselves to try and create a new rubber batsuit that would be much more flexible, much more comfortable, much more usable.
But when Michael put the cowl on, the first time we explained to him, I said, hopefully, Michael, we've put more movement into him. And he's go, no, I can't have that. There's no way we can have movement. It's got to be that's the really important thing. Okay, we will make sure it's nice and for you, trying to help, you know, best laid plans and all that.
We got a report from Alex Byrne, our costume designer, that he had gone very emotional when he first put on the suit because it had been 30 years.
To see Michael in the suit, that was incredible, absolutely incredible. It's a film memory I'll definitely take with me.
Michael is the ultimate pro. He plays everything very small, to the degree that you almost can't catch it. But then it's projected onto the big screen, and it is unbelievable. The amount of control he has over his face muscles, his eyebrows, his eyes, his mouth. Even when it's done at the smallest, he is telling you exactly what needs to be told.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
And it's something that I had never seen to that extent. For me, it was magic, and I think for Andy too.
You're strapped to your parachutes.
Working with Michael Keaton was insane. It was so cool. The dude is so fit. I don't know where the Fountain of Youth is, but he must be swimming in it. Honestly, the guy is a ninja. There was this day when we were filming in the kitchen, and we were doing the rehearsals, and Andy was just showing on an iPad Michael the footage of the sequence that was happening. And Michael just like jumped up like on the table and was just like there, just like, oh yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, got it. And I was looking at Michael Keaton on this table. I was like, dude, what are you doing on the table? Like, seriously. I put my hand out to offer to help him down, and he just went, oh yeah, I'm cool.
Michael Keaton's Batman is iconic. There are some very specific moments that it's important the camera gives the audience exactly what they want. There are probably 3 points in that, dramatically. First, when he's revealing his ears and his costume. The second, obviously, is when we reveal it's Michael as Batman for the first time, which sends a chill down the back of my spine. The last moment is his "let's get nuts" line. And it's just making sure that those moments are just right, because they give so much pleasure to so many billions of people.
Michael's son and his grandson were in Livingston visiting one day, and Michael told me, when I did Tim Burton's Batman, Sean is his son, was 4 years old, and now my grandson is 4 years old, and he's seeing his grandfather as Batman. And that was very emotional for him, and of course for us as well. I think Keaton didn't know how he was gonna feel about being this character again. But to be honest, I think he's walking away from this movie with a lot of love for Batman.
How did you do that?
I'm Supergirl.
You're who now?
To me, Supergirl is the most valuable character DC has. She fulfills so many different stories and roles.
I have said for a long, long time that Supergirl is more of a hero than Superman.
Supergirl stands for hope.
but she stands for hope in the face of survival.
She gets her powers from the yellow sun, but I also felt like she was kind of the embodiment of sunshine. And that was what originally drew me to the role.
There's no question putting on that Supergirl costume makes you feel that part.
She blazed her own trail in history, in the comics, and in animation.
It takes internal strength to prove yourself, and she did it. I mean, she can really kick some ass.
Krypton is a beautiful place.
No matter where she's at or how hurt she is, she will always have hope, compassion, and love for all.
A lot of sidekicks sort of start out as younger, smaller carbon copies of the more powerful, well-known characters that they are sidekicks to. Yes, that might be the starting point, but what's interesting to me is how do these characters break out and define themselves? And I think that is something that worked really well with Supergirl, this idea of a character that has the powers of Superman, but with a different personality, a different point of view.
In the 1950s, new Superman editor Mort Weisinger wanted to shake things up with Superman a little bit after 25 years of being DC's primary hero. There was still a sense that there wasn't as much innovative around him. So the goal was to create new things.
Supergirl is introduced in one of the best-selling comics in America.
Supergirl's origins started in Action Comics 252. The people of Argo City had survived Krypton's destruction. They had been living in space. They suddenly started getting kryptonite poisoning. So her parents put her on a similar ship to Superman's and sent her to Earth to save her life.
I just remember the classic cover of Supergirl coming out of her rocket and Superman backwards going, "Great Krypton, who are you?" And she's like, "I'm your cousin."
He was very unsure of her at first, and his first move was not to embrace her and show her the world. And so Supergirl, for the first few years of her existence, all of her stories were based in Midvale Orphanage, where basically she sat and waited for Superman's call. And anytime he got in a bad enough jam, he would send out the signal and summon his secret weapon, who was Supergirl. And she would fly in like the Kryptonian cavalry and kick the snot out of anybody that was giving Superman trouble. That went on for years.
There weren't a lot of prominent female superheroes, and certainly not a lot of young female superheroes, and so the fan base reacted positively to this notion that it's not just limited to Superman. If you're a female reader, I can also be a Kryptonian super character.
At the beginning, she was cheery. There was an excitement to her. She really liked being Supergirl.
The beauty of Supergirl is she's not competing with Superman. Like, sidekicks often compete with their mentors. Really what sets her apart is a feeling of connection to the human race that not even Superman has.
Superman does not remember Krypton. He was a baby. He grew up here. He feels like he's more human than he does a Kryptonian. Supergirl had a whole life. Her childhood was on Krypton. So she knows what it was like. She has people she lost. She has a world she lost.
That instills in her a love for humanity and a need to protect humanity that is as strong as Superman's, but different.
Warner Brothers began to develop a Supergirl movie in the 80s as a way of capitalizing on the enthusiasm for the Chris Reeve cycle of Superman movies and broadening it out.
You've had your fun, Selena. The game is finished.
It's an interesting idea being a role model at such a young age. I think I was so hungry to be taken seriously, so it was as serious as if I was getting cast in Romeo and Juliet or something with gravitas.
Leave this place and do no harm.
In the early 1980s, the image of Supergirl was, for lack of a better word, erring more on this two-dimensional side, kind of this virtuous sweetness, able to do good in the world. And then as we've seen it develop, each one, there's more depth and edges, and I think that's very good news for a lot of reasons.
The idea behind Crisis on Infinite Earths was DC felt that the universe had almost become too complicated with all these different Earths. And so part of the thinking was, is there a way we can simplify the mythology and also simplify the pantheon of characters so that we have one character that's a Kryptonian with superpowers, one character that runs fast. So some of the marquee foundational characters of the DC universe were killed off in that series, and Supergirl's one of them.
The drama of Supergirl's death was exciting, in part because she wasn't the one you would assume to have that level of courage. Supergirl had much quieter stories, and suddenly she was being thrust into this enormously dramatic moment.
There's an early page where Supergirl and Batgirl, they were sitting on a roof and they have a talk, and it's Supergirl saying, if I were to die tomorrow, I knew I did the right thing. To me, that's the most important page in all 12 issues of Crisis, because it says exactly what a hero is.
Supergirl joins in this huge battle against the Anti-Monitor, the most powerful DC villain at that point ever, and she wipes the floor with him. Superman is being attacked. She pauses to try and help Superman, and Anti-Monitor takes advantage of that moment, and he kills her.
Supergirl's sacrifice reveals so much better character. She's not willing to put her life on the line for just one universe. She's saving the entire multiverse. She's saving trillions of human beings. And that gave weight to what she did.
For most Supergirl fans, Kara's sacrifice in Crisis is the most important defining moment in her character history.
Supergirl had to be the heart of Crisis. Supergirl's death had to be something that there was no alternative. She knew she was going to have to do something to save the world, and she did it.
The cover to Crisis on Infinite Earths #7 is one of the most iconic covers in DC history. Superman holding Supergirl, tears in his eyes. That cover was an earthquake in the middle of the 1980s.
If you're a comics fan and you've done it long enough, you know at some point the character's going to return. So as a writer and a creator, that becomes sort of the, okay, how's this going to work?
One of the interesting things about Supergirl, when we brought her back into Superman the Animated Series, at that time in the comics, she was off limits. They had rebooted Superman again in the comics, and the official DC canon at that time was that there were no other Kryptonians besides Superman. So then we came up with a workaround where she's not technically from Krypton, she's from their sister planet, Argo.
I think she's one of the strongest superheroes there is, especially for little girls to break through the stereotypes that just because you're a girl, you're not limited to that. She broke the mold.
In the comics, she's very sweet, she's very pure, she's very innocent, but we wanted her to give her a little bit more spunk. We just wanted her to have an attitude, and we wanted her to kind of rebel against Superman a little bit.
Now what I do wrong. I loved portraying her feistiness and her spunky personality.
And then the visual we came up with, people really responded to the look, so much so that the next time they rebooted the character again, suddenly that became her default look in the comics.
I just love the original concept, which is that she was Superman's cousin. So there was an opportunity to tell that story, but to tell it with a more modern twist.
Originally, they were born at the same time. In the retelling, she was already a teenager when Superman was an infant. She looked after him. And when she was rocketed to Earth, she got caught in a time warp, stuck there for years. She didn't show up until Superman was grown up, and she's still a teenager. But she still feels protective of her cousin.
Because she had been in one sort of stasis for 18 years, just absorbing solar energy, she was in fact more powerful than he was, which was something that she never had been.
To me, she kind of resonated as like this harder edge version of Supergirl. There's a lot more room to explore there. This idea that not every Kryptonian has to be good and altruistic.
I had always thought that the darkness inside Kara was a way to differentiate her from this wholesome character that we had known from the 50s and 60s.
And I like the fact that you can have a character maybe resonates more with younger readers. It's just an incredible way to playing foils against one another and basically saying, yes, they have the same power set, but they're different people, they appeal to different readers, and we could do different types of stories with it.
It's been a long time, Calle. I missed you.
I missed you too.
On Smallville, what I loved about their version of her was that she was defiant. She spoke her truth. She actually had more powers than Clark did on our show. She was brought there to teach him his powers and to put him in his place, which I thought was really interesting and a unique angle for the show to go at with her.
You can't focus. You are not ready.
We didn't have other female superheroes at the time. Now there are so many shows, and I had women who would come up to me and cry and say, thank you for representing us. I had little girls saying, can you really fly? I want to be like you. I just had goosebumps, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm Supergirl.
On your marks, get set, go.
The Greg Berlanti shows blew us all away because he was actually doing the comics, and Melissa's Supergirl was she was like spot on.
I don't think at the time that significance landed on me, that we were the first female-driven superhero show on network television since Linda Carter played Wonder Woman. Probably because the weight of that was overwhelming. And because I knew she was going to be a role model to young girls. I think what defines Supergirl is all in her credo. Superman has truth, justice, and the American way. Hope, help, and compassion for all is Supergirl's motto.
You know Supergirl? I'm friends with all the nice girls.
And that's something that just stuck with me. I did take a lot of directive from Chris Reeve and the way he played Clark Kent. Part of the journey of the Supergirl that I played was really finding herself, and I'm really happy with the way that we kind of closed the chapter on my Supergirl, that she found a way to be peaceful and content with both sides of her life.
Immediately thought it was a great idea to bring Supergirl to the Flash.
Fun as we got to kind of turn on its head and do a different take on the character. Because this Kara is not sweetness and light, certainly not in the beginning. This Kara's been stuck in a bunker. She's been poked and prodded, and she's angry.
Shape and form that you would think.
The last son of Krypton, I was sent to protect him.
Everyone knows. You know, the blonde, blue-eyed girl that everyone expects.
Just as every Supergirl story is one of self-discovery, the character has really discovered herself across the last 60 years.
Because of her power, you can do a lot of emotional stories and making her even a stronger character.
She is one of the most powerful, one of the most emotional, and she'll be here forever.
I think what's made her popular is the fact that she's become a symbol of female empowerment.
And today can empathize with it, they can identify with, can find that in Supergirl.
She represents strength. She represents the every girl who doesn't have it together. She represents a woman who's chosen to blaze her own path and tell her own story.
Rising above and being able to see the light and the power that you have within you. That's her, I think.
She is the one that will always make people believe that they can. And she has the strength to show the world that they're all capable of that strength within themselves. And that hope and love and compassion really are all the things that will save the world.